Hello and good day, everyone. I am Nico, and welcome to this DevDrop. Today, we are going to explore a powerful capability inside Genesys Cloud, Event Webhooks. Before we click any buttons or write any code, let's talk about the problem this solves. Historically, integrating third-party systems with Genesys Cloud often meant tolling. Imagine you have an external ticketing system to know if a ticket was created. Genesys Cloud would have to ask the system, do you have new data every minute? This is inefficient. It wastes resources, and worse, it creates a delay. You don't get the data in real time. Enter Event Webhooks. This flips the model. Instead of asking for data, the external system pushes data to Genesys Cloud the moment an event happens. Think of it like a payment gateway notifying a shopping site that the purchase is complete, or GitHub triggering a Jenkins build when you push code. It allows for near real-time integration, enabling you to react instantly to events happening outside your contact center. In this session, we will discuss the ins and outs of this integration. We will examine a sample Node.js application, understand the data it sends, and then configure Genesys Cloud to accept that data and trigger a workflow. Before we deep dive into the configuration process, let's take a moment to map out the entire ecosystem. Understanding how these pieces fit together is critical because if one piece is missing, the data simply won't flow. There are four key components involved in this configuration, and I like to think of them as a relay race. So firstly, we have the external service or the third-party system. This is where everything begins. In a real-world scenario, this could be Salesforce, ServiceNow, Smart Sensor, or a custom internal tool. Its only job is to detect that something important happened, like a high priority ticket created, and immediately package that information into a message to send out. It's the runner starting the race. Now, secondly, the integration. When that message leaves your external service, it needs a specific destination. In Genesys Cloud, we don't just leave that front door open. We configure a generic event webhook integration. This component provides two critical things, the endpoint URL and the security layer. The endpoint URL is the exact address where the data must be sent, and the security layer provides a general authentication tokens and signatures to ensure that the data is coming from you and not a malicious actor. And next is the trigger. Once the data is safely inside Genesys Cloud, it doesn't automatically know where to go. It needs a router. This is the process automation trigger. The trigger is listening specifically to that integration. It says, hey, I see a new event came through the webhook. Based on my instructions, I need to send this data to a specific workflow. It binds the technical event to a business process. And finally, the workflow. Finally, the data arrives at the architect workflow. This is where the logic lives. The workflow receives the raw data variables, analyzes them, and decides what to do. Does it route to a queue? Does it send the SMS? Does it update a customer record? This is where you build your business rules. So to recap the flow, the third-party system pushes the data. The integration authenticates and accepts it. The trigger routes it. And finally, the workflow processes it. Now that we have discussed successfully the four main components involved in the process of event webhooks, let's move on to the configuration itself inside Genesys Cloud. Here we have an example workflow lended to us by John Carnell for demonstration. As you can see here, there are many involved variables. These are the expected variables from the third-party data that will be sent inside Genesys Cloud. It is an important note to match the variables that are expected to be sent and their data types. Once the data is in, we can use it. Here we have a decision block that checks the priority of the ticket, if it is high or low. If it is, we might route this to a specific queue or send an email alert. For this demo, we are simply logging the outcome so we can see it work. Now that we have a workflow ready to accept data, we need to open the door to let the data in. We need to do this in the integrations. Here, we are looking at an example generic event webhook. In order to be redirected to this page, just go here in the menu button and click here in the IT integrations, then click integrations. You will be directed into a list of interaction, and there will be an add interaction button in the right side of the page, in which if you clicked it, you will be redirected here. Now, you will see many integrations inside this page, but let's focus in webhooks. So search up webhooks. Now, if you found the webhook for events, just click install and will be directed here back to this page. So there are two key things here. There is the URL. This is the endpoint that we paste back to our application or to our third-party system. And we also have the webhook ID for authentication. This is the signature to verify the request that comes from the trusted source. Now that we have the door and the logic, now we need the bridge between them. This is the trigger. Here we have a trigger that would allow us to map the workflow that we created to the webhook ID that we created from the integrations page. We select the workflow that we are going to map, and this creates a binding. When an integration receives a post request, this will fire that redirected workflow. Also here in the right side, you will see the JSON payload schema. Once the trigger will be packaged and redirected to its target workflow. Now let's put it all together. We have discussed all the main four components that are involved within the process of webhook events. Now, let's move on to the demonstration using webhooks. Now, let's look at the code. This project is built using Node.js. This is a ticketing management system called Ticketflow that allows us to use the webhook integrations inside Genesys Cloud. This is kindly lended to us also by John Garnell for demonstration purposes. Now, looking here at the code, I want you to focus your attention here at these two functions. So for the first function, simply, we have to create a payload that will be shipped to the Genesys Cloud platform, and that will trigger the necessary business logic. Now, and this function is the core function of the webhook. Here we are using the access library to post the payload that we created. This is the core line of the webhook. It says simply that when a ticket is saved, it is bundled into a JSON payload, then immediately posted to the Genesys Cloud platform. And to, to demonstrate the capability of this, I've already had the terminal running for the UI of Ticketflow. So let's switch back there. Here we have the UI, and we already have some dummy data to begin with. But let's try to create a new ticket. Just go with a sample ticket. Say that critical bug. And so we have an example mail. And we also have like, let's try to choose a dummy phone number. Say it's very critical ticket. Status open. Now let's create that ticket. And well, it's created inside here. But in this scenario, this is simply the third party data. So with the process that we discussed earlier, we are going to check the logs if it has succeeded to go inside the Genesys Cloud platform. So here in the logs, we are going to find if the Genesys Cloud has successfully accepted the data. So there we go. As you can see, we have a post request here that was received, and you can see that the ticket number has been created, the webhook URL that would be redirected, and the status of it. We can check it is running now. So here we have successfully demonstrated that the webhook is working, and how does it really apply in third-party systems? So to recap, we successfully pushed data from a local Node.js app through a secure webhook endpoint into a process automation trigger, which launched an intelligent workflow to handle the business logic. This architecture allows you to decouple your external systems from Genesys Cloud while maintaining tight and real-time integration. For a deeper dive, including the source code for ticket flow and the blueprint for this setup, please check the links in the description. Thank you so much for watching and happy coding.